and I'm part of the Evangelism and Growth team, but I'm based at the Arthur Rank Centre, which is a rural resource for all churches and works ecumenically. The aims of this role are to support rural mission and ministry and to advocate for rural churches and communities, both within the church and wider society. You will probably have noticed that we live in a very urban-centric culture, and rural is different, as I spend my life saying. Prior to this post, I worked as a presbyter in 3 rural circuits in North Yorkshire, all mainly rural. And in my 6th year, I became district rural officer for 2 districts, alongside my circuit role. And I've been in my present post for the past 6 years, and I will finish next summer, 2021. I'm passionate about rural ministry and the rural church, so do get in touch with me after this if you think I can be helpful at all. One of the key concepts for me in rural ministry has always been that of an effective Christian presence. First came across this idea in Presence, which was published in 2004, and we looked at the concept again in A Discipling Presence, which was published in 2017. The idea stems from the belief that every community, if it's to be whole, balanced and healthy, needs at its heart a committed group of Christians. In their book, Holiness and Mission, Francis Young and Mona Hooker look at how the gospel was spread in the early church. They make it clear that large events rarely took place. People used their existing networks, their friends, their family, the people they worked with, to spread the gospel. And it spread by deeds as well as words. They say that the New Testament suggests that mission is accomplished by embodying the gospel as much as by proclaiming it by mouth. And if you want to embody the gospel, you've got to be physically present in your community. Embodying the gospel, being an effective Christian presence in every rural community is a big ask. It calls us to do things differently. Such a presence needs to be flexible, may not be based around Sunday, may not have a building. It should, where possible, be ecumenical and will be increasingly lay-led. Before the pandemic and the ensuing lockdown, we knew that things had to change in the rural church. But maybe that change is already starting to happen. Certainly we have had to find new ways of doing things very quickly. Services have gone online in different ways, and people are connecting differently from day to day. The concern is that we need time for these practices to embed, and if we reopen physically too soon, it may stop some of the change. At a recent rural strategy group, which is shared between the 2 denominations, we were talking of stories of how rural churches are adapting. There seem to be 2 main responses. For some, the closing of buildings has been a liberation. They haven't taken the decision, it's been taken for them by government, and that's been really helpful. And they're thinking about how to do things differently in terms of working together to share resources and free people up for mission. One person spoke of a circuit leadership team they'd been working with for some time, who, having shut their buildings, were thinking about which ones to reopen and how to work together as a group to jointly manage property, possibly even employing somebody to do that, so that they could concentrate on mission and outreach. Predictably, of course, there is another response, which is counting the days until they can return to the way things were. We need to be able to address both ways of thinking in the months ahead. We already have some good tools at our disposal. We'll be hearing about pioneering initiatives, different ways of looking at mission. But also for the Methodist Church, we have the ability for small churches to become classes of bigger churches, and to free people up in that way, bringing several churches together as one society on many sites. We'll hear an example of that later. We also have flexibility in how we see and use our buildings if we no longer want to use them solely for worship. The current connectional property strategy asks us to think of ways of using them that will still expand our mission if they're not centrally involved in worship. We're hoping this afternoon, by sharing of ideas of how things are already being done differently, we can address the concerns of both the groups I mentioned and see the strengthening and growth of an effective Christian presence in all our rural communities. And to make a time now for a prayer from the Iona community. So please, let's keep a moment of silence. Lord, in this shared time, we offer ourselves to each other. We offer our understandings and insights, not to dominate or overthrow one another, but that we ourselves might be challenged and changed. We offer our emotions and experiences, not in self-indulgence, but through honesty and openness, we may find and give encouragement and comfort. We offer our skills and talents, not because of pride in our abilities, but in a joyful recognition and sharing of your overflowing bounty. And as we celebrate and offer our common humanity, the very flesh and fabric of our lives, may you, the incarnate one, be once again embodied here in our individuality and in our communities. Amen.